Hi everyone, welcome to Ballet, where we talk about all things acting. As you can tell from the title, today's episode is going to be called You Can't Care. And I thought I'd start out by telling you a story just so you can understand a bit more of where I'm going with this. So last year was junior year, and during that time I had an ethics class. And during that class, I had a teacher, and he taught us almost throughout the entire year, nobody cares. And in the beginning, we thought it was a little strange, like, why are you teaching us that nobody cares? But what we found out was what he was teaching us was the most truthful thing you'll probably ever know, and it applies almost directly to acting as well. Almost every day last year, our ethics class teacher would tell us a story about something in his life. He'd tell these stories and end always with, "Why do I tell these stories? Nobody cares." And at first we thought it was a little strange as to why he thought nobody cared that we told his stories. But it wasn't until now, when I'm doing personal research and active work with acting, that I realized he was right. You see, the thing about his stories were that they were entertaining, but they didn't impact our lives directly. So although we could be emotionally driven by his stories and what happened in his life, outside of that, how could we care? It didn't change the way that we had to go to class every day. It didn't change the way that we had to go home and do basic chores. It had no impact on our life. You see, the thing about his stories were that they were entertaining, but they didn't impact our lives directly. So although we could be emotionally driven by his stories and what happened in his life, outside of that, how could we care? It didn't change the way that we had to go to class every day. It didn't change the way that we had to go home and do basic chores. It had no impact on our life. Now, the first movie that we watched in that class was A Bronx Tale. It was made up of his lesson plan, which was just watching movies throughout the whole year and reviewing them and figuring out what they meant. So in A Bronx Tale, Sonny tells Collateral that nobody cares. Now, the reason Sonny told Collateral this is because he liked a girl named Jane. Unfortunately for him, Jane was black and he was white, and in that community, they didn't allow that to happen. When Collateral came to his father with this issue, Lorenzo, aka Robert De Niro, replied to his son and told him that it would be best if he dated a white girl. But when he went to Sonny with this issue, Sonny replied and told him that in the end, when they're both together alone and they're happy together, then nobody cares, because it's not their life. The entire point between my teacher and A Bronx Tale is that in the end, nobody cares. Now, this doesn't mean that nobody cares about you and what happens to you. What it means is that in the end, people are living their own lives, and they don't have time to worry about yours. Today, I wanted to make this video because a lot of us actors get swept up into the judgment or fear of judgment when we're starting out. You know, when putting yourself out there, that means making video content. That means sending out emails and making calls. It means putting yourself in a position that makes you vulnerable. And I understand you're afraid of rejection. Just like my teacher, we all have stories to tell. And although people may find it entertaining and may even support your stories, if it doesn't impact them, they're not going to care. If you want to be an actor as bad as you say you do, make it happen. Stop daydreaming all day and figure out a way to get your name out there. Start social media pages, start blogs, start YouTube channels. Me, myself, I'm very uncomfortable with being in front of the camera, but I'm sucking it up because I know what I want and I know what I have to do to get there. You also have to remember that people don't live inside your mind. They're not going to know what you want to do just by seeing you. They're not going to see it in your eyes. That happens in the movies. You need to let them know what you're about, and not just verbally, but in action. Now I know what you're thinking. This seems like a lot of basic information for something, and I have no idea how to start. So, how do I start putting myself out there? Well, lucky for you, I made a list. So, first things first, headshots and portfolio. Now, I think this one's pretty obvious. It lets people know what you're about, it gives them a visual of how you will look on screen, and it shows them the different experiences that you've had. But outside of that, the way that you set up your portfolio and your headshots will determine how much they'll take you seriously. Now, for my portfolio, it was a little difficult for me to sort of figure everything out just because I haven't had any experiences. And one of the most frustrating things with portfolios is that you need experience to put in it, but if you don't have experience, how do you get it if you don't have it? This is why it's so important to take advantage of any sort of acting you can do, whether it be in acting class where you're in a class full of people acting, then take advantage of that and put it in your portfolio and use it as experiences. If you have a small play that you did when you were in school, that has to count for something, so put it in. You've acted. Okay, now headshots. For me, headshots is so much harder just because I am doing things like babysitting to sort of get money to pay for headshots, and I want them to be done well. But if you know, good headshots cost at least $200. So, or in between $200 to $500. So, I think really me obtaining that has been difficult. But even if it's difficult for you, then take advantage of any opportunity you can get to get a clear shot of your face. Me, I use a semi-new photo of me behind a blank wall, just staring into the camera, me taking a picture. That is something that I use for headshots until I can get professional ones done, and it works. Something else you should know about your self-tapes is that it does not need to be script-based or from a TV show. Me personally, my favorite self-tape from myself is something that was completely random. It was very improv-y. And I got some really good content out of it, and I'm very, very happy about it. So sometimes when you're starting out, you don't even need a script. You can just sort of feel out the vibe. What are you going for? Sad, happy, angry? Figure it out and get comfortable with it. Okay, next is acting class. Now, acting class is probably one of the most important things that you can do just because it pulls you away from just yourself and your knowledge of acting, even if you do research. Takes you away from yourself and puts you with professionals, people who know what they're talking about in ways they can make you better in ways you don't know how. So my experience before and after acting class is I'm just so grateful for acting class because in the beginning and even now, I'm very shy. I don't like the camera. I don't like being around big groups of people, and being an actor means being in a big group of people on set in front of a camera pretending, And that's what I thought it was, and so I had real big anxiety about going to an acting class. Put on top of the fact that I was the youngest in the class, so I felt like such an amateur. But I would have to say that going to an in-person acting class pulled me out of my shyness a little bit, so that way I was able to perform under that pressure. I would advise anybody who is more shy, more introverted than somebody who's extroverted to try doing an acting class in person. It's something that's very nerve-wracking, very uncomfortable. You're going to be stiff most of the time, but it helps you loosen up. And if it doesn't help you loosen up, then it gets you comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it puts you in a position where you have no choice but to do what you got to do to make it happen. Remember, everybody who signed up for acting class is there because they want to do the same thing as you. Nobody cares how good or how bad you start out as long as you are moving with the process. Only you care, so do what you got to do. Okay, next is agency. I think finding an agency is very important. I know because I don't have one, and I am looking for one, and it's very difficult. But trying to find roles on your own is not impossible, but very hard, especially for all those scammers and people who are just trying to take your money and not give you the best of what you can get. So an agency is really going to help you out. What I will say about agencies, because I feel like this is very important, and maybe I'll make a video, is with agencies, you have to make sure that you're ready to move at a rapid pace. So when you submit to every agency in your area, because that's what you got to do, submit to as many as you can, as close as possible to you, so that way you're able to at least get one or two to accept you. Once you've done that, then you have to make sure that you are ready to do things quickly. That means if you want to have a lawyer look over your contract, or if you want to have any other revisions, then you do a Zoom. Okay, you got to communicate. If you don't communicate, then they're not going to take you seriously and things aren't going to move in your way. All right, next up is casting call websites. Now, you submitted to your agencies, you're waiting for them to respond. The only thing that's left to do is submit to casting call websites. Why do we submit to casting call websites, you ask? Well, not only are they helpful for getting you into the mode of acting, seeing those notifications on your phone can be very helpful, but it can also get you into the groove of submitting yourself for roles, making spontaneous self-tapes that sometimes need to be due the next day. It really puts you on your toes, okay? It keeps you in actor's mode. My personal experience with casting call websites is I have them. I just haven't paid so I can actually submit to roles. But I like to do little practice submissions, so I just say apply and then I fill out the thing, and it gets me familiar with the process even without an agency. Finding these things can be hard, but it's good to practice any chance you get. It's not going to make you worse. It's going to make you better. Keeps me busy until I can find something. Keeps me in actor's mode. And it motivates me to get the money so that way I can pay for it. So it keeps me from giving up all the Okay, next up is doing your own research. Okay, so doing your own research is something you should be doing before portfolios, in between acting class and agency, in between casting calls and posts and all that sorts of stuff. It is something that you need to do. Here on this YouTube channel, hopefully we can build it up so you can find many different things, from methods of acting to ways to act to your own personal things that you need to go to before you even get in front of the screen. But until then, doing your own research, figuring out what method you're into, figuring out how to position certain things and how to make the best email to a casting agency, all of those things matter. And so I would say to never stop looking up stuff. Make your feed entirely acting if you need to. Okay, next up is social media presence. There's almost nothing that you can do that's going to put you into the limelight and not affect how well you're going to be known. From my experience, I hated social media. I had it deleted for a very long time. But when things started to feel very rocky, I called a casting agency who said the best thing you can do for somebody who's unrepresented is to have a social media presence. Social media is something that connects everybody to everything. Even if you get reposted a couple times, things like that can really make a difference. When somebody looks you up, that's in the industry, then they're going to see your name and they're going to see that you're attached to good things, and it's going to get you closer. I feel that I should also mention I left my social medias down below, so if you want to, please follow me. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video. I recommend A Bronx Tale. It's a very good movie, and I hope you take my advice because it's from experience. My sister told me to tell you to like, comment, and subscribe, so please do that, and have a good day. Bye.